Hey, thanks for checking out another episode of Triple Play. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to support those that support us. We want to thank Brookes Bible College. Brookes Bible College is a Christ-centered Bible college here in the St. Louis area. If you are looking to grow in the Lord and get into ministry, or if you're a layperson just wanting to get to know God's Word better, consider taking classes at Brookes Bible College. Their goal is to get you in ministry with as little debt as possible and to give you a great education for the cost. And you'll be equipped to pastor, you'll be equipped to counsel, and you'll be equipped to teach God's word when you graduate. Guaranteed, promise, and you'll love it. Great professors, great staff and faculty, and just everybody there. You're going to love it if you consider Brookes Bible College. Just a little random fact, but the average church size in America is 60 to 70 people, and if you're graduating from college with $100,000 worth of debt or $75,000 worth of debt, it's going to be very hard to pastor a church that size unless they're independently wealthy. So, consider Brookes Bible College. It's a great alternative. Also, to go right along with that, per se, is the fact that you're a lay person and you want to get better educated. You don't want to spend $75,000 to do that either. So you're going into missions. You can't do missions work if you're carrying around a $50,000, $75,000 worth of college debt either. So those are all reasons to consider Brookes Bible College. We hope you'll consider, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. All right. Hey, thanks for checking out another episode of Triple Play. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And that said, we've got a
I
good
got a
guest
question about like and subscribe.
Yeah, go ahead.
What happens when that happens? If someone subscribes or doesn't like? Yeah, I'm not on social media, so this is really just an honest question.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
great.
complete.
So
ignorance.
likes get your video promoted through YouTube or Rumble or Twitter. Okay, it ups their ampage of trying to show it
Okay.
out to other people.
Based on their
And what about
algorithms.
subscription? How much you cost?
So, well, like subscribing, normal, like a small subscription doesn't cost anything. That
Oh.
just is like showing, hey, I want to know more about that when they put
Okay.
out new
It
episodes.
allows you to get notifications.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
that's all it is.
Yeah, and then we do have, if somebody wants to sponsor us, we do have people who sponsor us monthly, and
You do have people now?
yeah, well, so we have they're called members.
Okay.
And they can start as low as $3,
Okay.
and they go all the way up. We have a couple doing $25 a month.
You got somebody suckered.
They just enjoy our podcasts. So I know you
they
do.
view it as giving.
It's a giving.
Well, it's not just giving, but hopefully we're giving back. Like we just put out an app on Apple. Have you seen our app?
I have not.
Dude, I'll show you after we're done. It's actually pretty smooth. It's not just ours. That's one of the things I was telling Frank. If he starts doing it, we can get him on the app because we've got a ton of other podcasts
we
like
can
John
make it like
MacArthur.
A hub, like all in.
Mortgageboard.
Yeah, you just go to our app. You can pick.
You can get your
religion,
news.
sports, news,
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah, so
Good.
We've got that going on. So
So maybe you can drop the sports part of it. Let Frank do your sports. You do the religion. He does the social aspect.
I just pop in. How
He
about I
pops
just
in
pop
for the social aspect.
there you go.
Culture. He's a cultural genius right here.
That's great.
I can weave sports and religion.
Oh, and politics all in one. Sure.
Sure.
Good.
I can do
That-
that.
Well, our guest today jumped right in, so he's been here several times. But why don't you tell him who it is, Scotty?
Well, if you're listening and you're not watching, you'll recognize his father. This is Andy coming back. We gotta start counting. This might be your
Third, I think.
third or fourth time. Yeah.
Third time.
But we
Well, you must have a ratings problem because every time I come on, your ratings go up. So was it a ratings issue? Is that why you called me in here?
well, that's why. Yeah,
I'm kidding.
That's why we got special guests.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? So it depends on what you watch. We brought one in not too long ago, and I really had low expectations because it was a small Christian school in South City, okay? And had like 3 views on YouTube. And then I flip over to Rumble one day, and of course that's more like the conservative side, a lot of conservatives. And it had 300 views within the first week.
Well, good.
I'm like, how did... and our average one on Rumble is probably more like 20 or 25, and we do a lot more on YouTube. So it was really small on YouTube, but very big on Rumble. So you never know, buddy.
Okay.
So
People hear the words that are spoken through.
different
right.
avenues. Yeah.
Sure.
Sometimes it's through a Spotify or it's we're starting to do so. I've been posting them on Twitter. That's kind of a newer one for us now, our newest avenue. So I've been putting all the new ones out on Twitter
Yeah.
as well.
But the reason we felt like it was a good time to have you on is because we got the trade deadline has
Coming past.
since come and gone.
Yep.
There's been moves, and I got my phone on ring, so heard that. But yeah, the Cardinals specifically made some calls,
They did. They made a few.
interesting ones that I think could be your opinion,
Well,
but good. But also, I think there's potential for. Let you just.
Tell me,
You
give
noted.
us your thoughts on okay, and you can say not just the Cardinals, but I know you're also from the Pirates. There were a lot of different moves all across the board. Obviously, the Cardinals being the one we're most interested in
Sure.
because there's a local one. But
No blockbuster.
the yeah, I wouldn't call any of them really major blockbusters. I mean, your best pitcher was actually Flaherty going to the Dodgers, I think, this year.
and that's always Flaherty's always a coin flip. But even though he's been pitching well this year,
Yeah.
for Flaherty,
Yeah.
since his magical year in 2019, he's probably better now than he has been since he's come back. So that could be an upside. And there's something about the Dodgers, and Scott could probably attest to this better than anybody since he played for him for almost 6 years. There's something about the Dodgers when they get a pitcher. He seems to be a little bit better than where he came from. And why is that? Is it the environment? Is it the philosophy of pitching? Is it because you're a Dodger now and the expectations are higher? It could be a combination of all three. I have no idea.
I think it's probably a factor of a lot of things. I think defensively, if you look at the Dodgers, the last 10 years, their defense is unbelievable. You got Gold Glovers in center field, right field, third base, shortstop, first base. But
But
I think that
defensively, they're
helps.
down this year, though.
Well, down, but
This
yeah,
year.
but compared to, I mean, they're still you look at their. I mean, they got Freeman at first. I mean, I would say they're an elite.
They got catching defense is
The
good.
corners are locked up. I mean,
Corners are good.
yeah, they got Mookie Betts.
Mookie Betts
They got
when
a
he's
good
healthy.
catcher with Will Smith.
Yeah.
So I think your point. Yes, Rick Honeycutt was there for a really long time and established
An environment.
just
yeah.
an environment
Yeah.
of pitching. Like there's a calmness. I think the guy that took over the Cubs, but he took over and just took off where Honeycutt left things. So
Mhm.
they have their philosophy is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And they still have Kershaw there. I mean, he knows what he's doing. I would
Except for
imagine.
yesterday.
I would imagine he speaks to people.
I was just saying the
Well,
other day.
his mere presence, I think, is does a lot.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Flaherty walked.
and not that that's going to make not that's going to make guys necessarily better, but they might think differently, and I think that's important because when you look at last year, one of the reasons why the Cardinals signed Wainwright is because they wanted to have Wainwright ended up being the worst pitcher on the pitching staff. And so when you're trying to be the guy that establishes a level and you're not there, it's really hard to be a leader. So it's going to be very important for Kershaw to pitch well. Not that he's going to lose credibility, but when you're the best pitcher on the staff and you say something, you don't say it very often, but it carries weight. E.F. Hutton, remember the old E.F. Hutton commercials? When E.F. Hutton speaks, people listen.
Yeah, well, it's like you go into a room with nice, like business guys, or I don't know, like anywhere, and that little thing with your tie, kind of like you
Sure.
kind of just that when you walk in, you go on the mound, you kind of do that in your mind,
Mhm.
you know.
I personally just think that Kershaw is totally underrated in today's game because everybody looks at him.
Not
as being-
now. I
Yeah,
mean, he's not. He's a Hall of Fame pitcher. He's not underrated. He's
But I mean-
going to the Hall of
He'll
Fame.
be rated appropriate.
But I don't mean in that way. I mean underrated.
Historically,
No. I mean, just like this season, a lot of people were like, I had a lot of people I knew saying, "Oh, we don't know. Is this finally going to be the year where he kind of starts downtrending?" Because right before he got hurt last year, he was doing really well, and then he got hurt, and they're like, "Well, he's at that age."
The thing about Kershaw at this point in his career, you can't expect Kershaw from 5 years ago. It's just not going to happen. He's thrown too many pitches. Nobody's going to be as good as they are in their mid-30s as they were in the early 20s, like he was dominant. So anything you get, if he gives you 4 to 5 innings at this point in his career, and he doesn't get outscored, that's a plus. That's just a plus.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a lot better than that. He's a great pitcher. I think when I was watching the stuff game one
All right,
back the
let's
other day.
you and I bet dinner, and we'll see just how, at the end of the year where he is.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a disappointment because it's hard. It's just really hard to come back at that age.
It was shoulder too.
Shoulder,
Shoulder
which is
surgery.
worse than
Yeah. We'll see.
elbows, but God bless him. He's a terrific guy and a Hall of Famer. So anything he does, I know one thing: the Dodgers aren't going to send him out there keep the shine on his career. I can tell you that. They're going to send him out there if they think he can help them win a game.
Yeah. Well, based on performance number one, I think he's going to have.
Unlike the situation last year.
Yeah, I agree on
because
that.
they're in first place, or they're trying to stay ahead of San Diego, who they lost to last night. So.
And the Dodgers have a good history. You know, when you asked about pitching, that was one of the things that the Cardinals used to be known for, and they're no longer known for, was pitchers would come here and have their best years. They would take a pitcher who wasn't so good, and they would come here and do really well, especially through the early 2000s, the Dave Duncan era.
They did it. I don't know how they do it. They used to draft like double college kids that were ready in a
I'll tell you, that's when I'm looking at the Cardinals right now, that's really one of my concerns right now is their development of from their AAA to their pro. It seems to be, other than Macy Wynn, there seems to be some kind of a disconnect. It seems when I'm watching a lot of these young guys down. You got Jordan Walker, who came up, and now he's back down there. Victor Scott.
Not unusual, by the way.
Scott.
Not unusual.
McGreevy yesterday. I don't know if you heard any of the players speak about him, but I would take what they said because they were at the game and watched them. They were like even Tommy Sam was like, yeah, if like that guy's giving us 7 innings like that, he needs no excuse. Like he's young or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that. So why hasn't he when we've had a need for a pitcher for a while? That's kind of my thing. There seems to be like this disconnect of, I really hope
when you sign, the guys you sign in the offseason, give them the money you give them, like Lance Lynn. You got to give him the ball. You just have to.
Yeah.
And Lynn's been good enough to give him the ball. I mean, his ERA is just a little bit over 4, which I'll be honest with you, at the beginning of the year, I didn't think Lance Lynn would last a half a season. He's a bulldog, a veteran, and gosh darn it, give him credit. He's pitched way better than I anticipated. Makes me no idea what I'm talking about.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I was the same way.
Okay.
I said the same thing. I didn't. My expectations of Lance Lynn were.
I thought it was going to be a home run derby, but turned out to be very, very good for the Cardinals.
Now Gibson's actually been living up to what I thought he would do. I thought he's been, for the most part, most of the season.
He's always. He's on the 4-inch balance beam, ready to fall off all the time, and that just wears you out. I mean, it just does. There's always people on base, and that's part of what part of my analysis today. I was looking at the Cardinals. Is actually their pitching is okay. It's really the overall offense that's killing them. The overall offense. Look at the league itself. The Cardinals are not a good offense.
So better as of late.
Well, they scored 8 and 10 runs in the last 2 games. They scored 18 runs in the last 2 games. They haven't scored 18 runs in a series all year. Think about that.
Yeah.
In a week.
First month and a half was like,
so,
they scored 4 runs. They were.
Yeah.
So having, we're talking about the trade at this point, I don't think it's still good enough for them to make the playoffs. There's too much of a gap going on. They got 6 teams to pass for the the second wild card. And when I was talking about the offense, let me just go through some things.
Okay.
Team batting average is 13th in all baseball, which is okay. You're a little bit below average. I mean, a little bit above average.
Got to be more timely.
Okay. In Oakland, I want to compare the St. Louis Cardinals. Give me a few minutes here to the Cleveland Indians. Very similar teams offensively now. Cleveland is 17th in batting average. So the Cardinals have a slight edge there. Total bases, the Cardinals are 17th in all baseball. Total bases. Very important stat. A lot of people overstate. Total bases adds up to run. Cleveland's 18th. In walks, Cardinals are 21st in base. Cleveland is 22nd. Runs. Okay, here's the big difference. Runs, the Cardinals are 24th. Cleveland's 13th. OPS, on base, or
Plus slugging.
plus slugging. 18th Cardinals, Cleveland 14th. On base percentage, Cardinals 19th, Cleveland 15th. So when you look at those stats, Cleveland offensively, even though I think it's a tougher league, is basically the same offensive ball club that the St. Louis Cardinals are. What's the difference?
The Guardians are in first.
Guardians have their record is 52. I mean, 65 and 42. The Cardinals' record is 56 and 50. And here's the difference. Everybody's talking about how good the pitching is with St. Louis Cardinals this year. It's deceiving. In baseball, team ERA, Cardinals are 16th. Cleveland is 4th. That is a huge gap. That's a really huge gap.
Yeah.
You know, over a course of 7 games or a course of the last few months of the season. Now, I know you're talking about the Central American, you're talking about the Central National, 2 different leagues, I get it. But this, in today's game, the way the schedule is,
Yeah, it's not as different anymore.
this is more glaring because you don't have a chance to change those stats because you're not playing those teams in September like you used to. You used to play only in September within your league, within your division. I mean, not even within your league. So in September, Arizona's going to be playing Milwaukee, and the Cardinals are going to be playing Pittsburgh, okay? What if the Cardinals sweep Pittsburgh? Okay, Pittsburgh now is out of it in September. But what if Milwaukee sweeps Arizona? Cardinals are still the same amount behind because they're not playing each other enough in September. And that's one of the things I hate about the modern schedule is you don't have a chance to really come back from 7, 5, 6 games behind the beginning of September and have a chance to win division because you can run through your division in September. It's impossible to do that anymore. You have to rely on other ball clubs to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, there used to be like 3-day swing. Down 4 games, you'd be like,
Right.
person.
We're 1 game behind or whatever.
Yeah.
So here's another thing. A very important stat in pitching is
Most important.
no. It will probably I picked out the 4 that I think are the most important.
I would say batting average against is probably up there because
It is very good one. So is WHIP.
Yeah, I was about to say whip would have been
Walks
my
and
next
hits
one. I
per
was getting
inning.
ready, literally was going to say whip.
And
So
also strikeouts are important. Okay. Team ERA, that can fluctuate a little bit. But it's still important. St. Louis is 16th in all of baseball in the team ERA. I said that. Cleveland's 4th.
Do you have a number on that, or just that they're 6?
They're 16th
Okay.
ranked. I only did by ranking. Walks and hits per inning pitched. Cardinals are 18th. Cleveland's 5th in all. On base average, Cardinals are 23rd pitching. Cleveland is 4th. Strikeouts, Cardinals are 26th. Cleveland is 8th. That's the difference. Right there.
Mhm.
you know what I saw? I saw a stat and
That's a big difference.
about Well, I was going to say I saw a stat about 3 weeks ago. I think Bernie put it out, where he was comparing that slot where Plante is kind of now a man down, but before he came around, we had 4 or 5 guys trying to fill it, and it just it was like almost giving up a game. We had some bullpen starts. And if those had been at least 500, if they had had somebody who was at least a 500 pitcher, we would be like in second place in our division, and
We are in second place.
or not second place in
Wild card.
Well, the stat that you can't extrapolate what that does offense, but I can tell you, and you can attest to that, when you're standing in the outfield on defense, there's a run, pop, like the innings are longer.
It's not necessarily the innings are longer. It's that you have to defensively cover more mistakes. And when you don't have strikeouts like the Cardinals do, when you're 26 out of 30 teams in the big leagues and you're allowing balls to be hit and play, well, that just increases your chances of a guy ending up on a base, advancing a base. A blue hit is now, instead of a strikeout, because of the stuff. I'm talking about stuff-wise. You swing and miss it, good stuff. That really adds up over the course of 9 innings in a series. then a week, then a month, then first
Yeah.
half, second. So it's then first half, second. So it's an accumulative effect that you're always having to be on playing defense. I mean, how beautiful it is when Kershaw was in his prime. You go out there and you might have to field 14 balls, maybe.
Mhm.
You know, you might get 13 strikeouts, 10 strikeouts. Nobody on the Cardinals. I think we've had one guy strike out double-digit guys this year. I think once, maybe none.
That was Gray. Gray
It
did
does.
it one game.
Concentrate, yeah.
Gray had one game where he was striking out a lot of people early on in the season, but he really has struggled his last
So that
almost
again
2
is
months.
an accumulation effect. That when you look at the guy in the mind, you go, "Oh man, it's gonna be a busy day out here in the outfield. Be on your toes." Now it's fun, but it's no fun when balls are being hit in the gap and you got to start running down all the time. So striking out, I think, it's a big issue for this Cardinal pitching staff. And there's no way that you're going to all of a sudden see Cardinals start striking out 10 guys in a ball game. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, the Cardinals are exactly where, with their pitching staff, what if somebody asked me at the beginning of the season, where do you think this pitching staff is going to be? And you just gave all the stats, I would have said middle of the road.
I thought it was, actually, when I was doing this morning, I thought it was that they were actually better. I was surprised because when I did this a couple months ago, they were actually better in baseball. The pitching was actually better than it's not. You don't think that, but think of how many games they've lost because of offense. Which again, when you're always playing on defense, you're not you're off. You start to feel pressure offensively too.
Well,
Because we got to score 4 runs, 5 runs, because we're always giving up 4 or 5 runs.
You're having to concentrate more. You're expending energy. Like it doesn't seem like you would be, but you're focused for longer periods of time. And then when you go on offense, you're like, ah,
Well, just look at this last 2 games against the Texas Rangers. Now, I know the Rangers aren't the same team as they were last year when they won the World Series. Their pitching is not nearly as good. But the mere fact that the Cardinals scored 8 runs and 10 runs in 2 games, where did most of their runs come from? The second half of the game. Right? They poured it on. When you know you got the game pretty much won, you're up 4-1 or 5-1 in the 6th, it's so much easier to hit. It's so much easier to add on.
use your phone real quick.
yeah, I'm on it.
Look up John. Look up Gray's last 6 games for me, because I really think it starts from leadership in the top. We were talking about the effect.
And he hasn't. And people keep thinking he has not been.
That's why I was having him pull up. I want to bring this up
All right, what
because
was
I
it
looked
again?
the other day at his last 6 games that he started, and how many runs he was giving up each game, and how many innings he was
And
pitching.
another thing I can't stand is all this stuff about, you hear it on TV or you hear it on the radio, then you read in the paper about all these bloop hits, all these soft hits.
That's baseball.
When I was playing, nobody talked about soft hits. It was either you got a hit or you got an out. Nobody complained when you hit a line drive at somebody. Oh, he's hitting the ball hard. Oh, and he's only hitting 230, but boy, is he hitting the ball
It's a
hard.
hard
You
230.
know what? Hit a soft 260 for me. I'll take my chance.
That was actually what was a saying when we were coming up with the minor leagues. Guys would be like, "I'm hitting a hard 275," and the coach would come by and be like, "Get to where you're thinking I'm okay with a soft 300.
I like my chance hitting soft 300.
Like, just hit a soft 300.
Yeah.
They'll be happy."
Did you find it?
I'm looking at his. I got his game log dating back to
Yeah, give me his last
April
6.
9th.
I just
Okay.
want his last 6.
That's too far back. Just
All
give
right.
us the last
5 or 6.
We
Yeah,
can do July. You want to do July?
perfect.
July. All right. July 5th, St. Louis at Washington. He started the game and went 5 innings, 8 hits. That's the high whip.
How many walks?
5 runs, 5 earned runs, 1 home run, no hit by pitches, 1 base ball.
Now that's Washington. Now I know they're a young talent team. They got some talent, but that's Washington.
Yep. Go to
We're
the next one.
talking about the Yankees or the Dodgers here.
Chicago. Similar. He went 7 innings, 9 hits, 3 earned runs, no walks.
That's okay. I'll take 7 innings, 3 runs, no walks.
Next start again, Atlanta, 7 innings,
Mm-hmm.
8 hits,
Mm-hmm.
5 earned runs, 4 home runs,
Mm.
10 strikeouts.
Oh, there you go. Those are your 10.
Then he can strike guys out.
Well, he's capable of having.
Then Washington
guys.
again, 5 innings again against Washington. Got his number, 5 runs, 7 strikeouts.
So that's
That's his last 4 or 5 games.
that's my
So
point. That's a killer. And when you go out and sign your best free agent pitcher, and all of a sudden your offense is starting to move in the right direction, and you send out your number one guy in the month of July, come away with those numbers. That to me tells me, are they good enough to make the postseason? I would say, as of August 1st, no. There's too many teams to climb over.
So the next
And
question,
not only look, they got to beat Arizona, and Arizona is one of the hottest teams, and all of a sudden they got their swagger. You see how they won the other night? Corbin hit walk-off 2-run homer.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't had anything exciting like that all year. And if they start believing they can make it back to postseason, Cardinals don't have a chance because they can't run with them. They can't play defense with them. And as far as pitching and offense goes, they're basically the same team. But man, I tell you, with that speed and defense that Arizona has, you can win ball games. At least one ball game, a series, just based on that.
well, and I actually like the top of their pitching rotation. I think it's better than us.
Oh, it
I like
is.
their number one better than our number one.
Mm.
I mean, he's young. He's good. But here's my next question. At the trade deadline, we picked up a starting pitcher. We actually have, quote unquote, a number 2 pitcher now. What are your thoughts of him?
I'm going to wait. I mean, coming from the White Sox, I would think going from the White Sox to any ball club in all of baseball has got to make you exciting.
It's like getting let out of
Oh
prison.
my gosh!
Well, and
I
I
mean,
mean, that was just the worst.
Did you hear the manager said this is the quote for this.
we should play it.
He said if
Play it.
it's like a rumor. It's like somebody got an inside info in the locker room. This is what they said. That if
Okay, so you don't know this is unequivocally true then?
No.
Okay.
No, this is rumor mill. That the
Gossip.
manager
Actually, it's a rumor or gossip?
Well, I don't know. Is it?
Well, why don't you say it
Is
then?
it hurting anybody?
What
Depends what he said.
did he say? What did he say?
Well, this is what was that he would blame that it would all be on the players' fault that they had the worst season.
Well, that's a guy that you want at the helm with the Titanic, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the kind of leader I want.
That's what
I
I heard.
I don't doubt it.
I
I
don't know.
mean, there are people in baseball like that
'Cause I
who
heard-
always deflect any responsibility. So I get it. No different than any other place in life.
17.
Still.
What do you 17? They've lost 17 or this.
They haven't won since the All-Star break.
Oh, wow.
And 6 games before the All-Star break. Something like
I got a friend who's a big White Sox fan
Oh, that's
from
too
the
bad.
gym, and he's not even showing up right now. He's going to
Well,
another
tell him,
location.
you know, he at least ought to be cheering for something. Tell him to break the record.
Yeah.
Tell him to
You're
go
gonna-
for the worst record in baseball.
If you're gonna do
They're
it,
on
do it.
pace. They're a little bit behind, but considering they've lost 17 or 18 in a row, they're on their way.
With September, they still got call-ups they got to showcase for next
That's
year.
true.
Well, I told him that too, and he was like, "Dude, we can't even draft right now. Our whole organization's just, we gotta get new ownership. We got to get new management. We got to have the whole thing." So
Chicago White Sox kind of remind me of the White House right now. They're both in chaos.
is that truth?
Turning to politics.
Oh, we're
No.
not turning.
Hey, but I was gonna say that the pitcher we picked up, Fetty, is that his name? Am I saying this right? I never know
What
how.
about Fetty? He ain't Fett.
Eh,
Fatty or Fetty?
how do you say his name? Is it Fetty? That's what I was
Not
thinking.
confetti. Not confetti.
Not confetti, but Fetty. I think that's how you say his name. But he's for a team that we just were talking about how bad they were. He still had a 3.22 ERA and be number one he'd be number one in almost every stat on the Cardinal team right
Right.
now with that kind of a team. So
Right.
is he? But the problem I think is, and this is what goes to you. One of the things I was happy that we got him because he wasn't expensive. He's going to be here more than a year. It seems like kind of like people have said the Jordan Walker type deal.
Mm-hmm.
The catch is just Jordan Walker had better stuff. This guy has.
Jordan Walker had better stuff.
Yeah, he's not.
I'm sorry, Jordan Montgomery. Sorry, Montgomery. When
Yes.
we traded for Jordan Montgomery, Montgomery had better stuff from a pitching point of view. He had some strike and miss stuff. Where this guy is basically really dependent a lot on a sweeper. So, and it's not bad. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying that he's going to be terrible or anything like that. I'm just saying that we talked about that swing and miss stuff.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's lights out.
It could
I
be.
mean, just walking into that clubhouse alone mentally is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you, everybody thinks, playing Major League Baseball is great, which it is, but it's one of the worst jobs in history. You walk into the clubhouse and you know you're going to lose. Think about going to work thinking you're going to lose that day. Day after day after day. I mean, I'd rather stay home with the mother-in-law I don't like than going to the clubhouse.
It doesn't matter how nice the clubhouse is.
No. Losing really, really stinks. Then, unless you're in your 6-year free agency and you're having a good year, you don't care where you are. Then you can go where you want. But when you walk into the clubhouse, and he really never experienced that with the Dodgers. Maybe with,
We were good.
it's just you like driving to the ballpark. And then you regret. My first year, I regretted going to Pittsburgh clubhouse. It was so different than that winning atmosphere in St. Louis. So if he comes here and that attitude in that clubhouse has changed, and if Tommy Pham has anything to do with that attitude changing, I'm not saying they're not going to play playoffs, but it's a possibility.
What do you think of Tommy Pham?
Tightrope.
Well, he obviously brings intensity. I mean, anybody who's been shot twice and knifed once, or knifed twice, or shot once, or whatever it is, either you're lucky or you're tough, and I think he's a combination of both. So it could be lucky for the Cardinals that he's here. He can bring some toughness, which he does. And one of the things I always respect about a player, and it's sort of like Barry Bonds. You want to be a punk, you want to be a tough guy. That's fine. But when the game starts, as long as you put out and you play to win, I'll take all the other stuff that comes with you. I think Tommy Pham he wants to win.
Yeah,
I think that's what he brings. He wants to win.
I agree.
He was a spark plug for Arizona last year. And
it's really interesting. He's played for 9 teams in 6 years.
Yeah. Well,
and yet he could be, I'm not saying he's going to be, he could be a key opponent to shoot some electricity into this offense.
He did that last year for Arizona.
Yes, he did.
And that's the thing. My understanding of Tommy, and this is just my understanding from hearing, players and the comments that are out there.
30,000-foot view.
Yeah, 30 exactly.
Yeah.
What's that?
30,000-foot view.
Who?
Okay. This is just my 30,000-foot view. Tommy Pham.
Oh, yeah.
But
unless you're in that clubhouse, unless you're competing with him, you only really know. But outside observer, he's had teammates that have been issues. Puig was probably an issue, and he's probably some other players. As long as you're winning, you can ignore that stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think
start losing, there's a reason why Tommy Pham got traded 9 times in 6 years.
That was what I was going to go to. Is that my understanding is his intensity is great for about a half season, which is why he's been great. But he kind of wears out his welcome after about half a season because he's just Well,
that's the only thing.
As you said, the tight walk kind of personality type.
Like I said,
he punched an old teammate.
Yeah, that's
on fantasy football at the batting cage over arguing about fantasy football. So
I think it would have been better if he didn't punch him, he slapped him, which is, I think, even more disrespectful.
Oh, sure. Slap is the most disrespectful thing in the Middle East.
99% could
backhand,
team,
especially.
but if 1%, there's a chance that something like that could happen at any point. What does that do?
Well, obviously the Cardinals could have picked him up at the beginning of the season had they thought he would have been the answer.
They didn't need him at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
They really didn't. They didn't anticipate some of the issues they have in the outfield, so I get it. Having said that, John Mozeliak, kudos, I mean, this guy left on bad terms. GM was here at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, put the personality feelings aside. If this guy can help us win ball games, bring him in.
Yeah, in fact, he was the sticking point to finishing up the trade for the pitcher. They asked him why it didn't happen earlier, and he goes, because I really wanted Pham to be part of that deal.
Mm-hmm.
So
we'll see.
He could have gone 1-1 and didn't need the Dodgers. But that was get Pham was part of bringing the Dodgers in. So, yeah,
that's interesting. I think, like you were saying about that pitcher earlier about a 4-inch beam. I think that's how they're going to have to finish the season. Like, they have to go right, they'll have to perform. Other teams have to. The other teams have to collapse a little bit.
That's again. There's very few good things I think that have happened in all of baseball in the last 5 to whatever years. All the rule changes and all that. But I wish they would go back. And I know it's because of interleague play, but there's got to be a way of figuring out that September in your division means something. I don't want to be relying on an American League team from the West Coast to beat a team from Pittsburgh or Milwaukee or Cincinnati that I would have an opportunity to beat myself if you put the schedule in play. That is, to me, what really determines true grit in the baseball season. That last month, who is willing to get, to go the distance to beat the other team? And you can only do that in your division when you have that balanced schedule. I wish they would figure that out. I think it would bring more excitement back to baseball.
It would certainly bring more rivalry.
Yeah.
Boston, New York playing 10 times.
Well, they would be, I don't know how they would figure it out. Either 7 times. It used to be 18. You would go, you would play a team in your division 18 times, and then you'd play the West Coast.
Usually do away, home and away.
Home and away in your division. Then in the West Coast, back then, it would be away, home. And that's it. I'm not smart enough to figure out the schedule. Somebody's got to be smart enough to figure that out.
You know what? I think I just read not too long ago that the same family.
Yes.
That's been doing it for 30 years makes the schedule. So we need to email them, that couple.
Well, I'm sure they could figure it out, but baseball has to tell them what to do. It's not their fault. No. They don't. They're going to do what they're paid to do. The commissioner's made a lot of unwise decisions lately. He's not alone. That's one of them. Yeah, in my opinion, it's huge.
I think so. I agree. I enjoyed the rivalry at the end of the season, and the fact, as you were just saying, you could play. The Cardinals were down 4 games in Milwaukee. We had a series with them. All of a sudden, we're 1 game if we could sweep the series.
Right.
So,
to your point, like the rivalries, playing the same team, hurting baseball, helping baseball. Like I've noticed this year that people have like 2 teams. So like wear a jersey, and then like a White Sox player will wear Tampa Bay. Like that didn't used to happen growing up. Like you had a team. Like I'm not putting on another dude's.
I agree on that.
And so that you can kind of see the rift of having their team hurt space.
So, now, am I understanding right that after this year, is it this year or next year that Major League Baseball is going to try to expand into more cities?
Well, Oakland's going to be going to Vegas.
Right.
As far as expansion goes, I don't know. I hope not. The game is too diluted with bad players now. Here's the weird thing about baseball today. There is greater talent across the board at the top of baseball. Bottom part of baseball, it's never been worse. So you have this gap of really good, a lot of good players, and then a lot of mediocre to bad players playing in baseball. My point is, Dylan Carlson never, in the last 2 years, would have been on a major league roster when I was playing. He never would have been playing. He wouldn't have been playing when Scott was playing. But there's such delusion now, and so low expectations of some players, because baseball, for some reason, is accepting, a lot of the mediocrity of offensively that's taking place.
Well, part of it was that they gotten rid of teams in minor leagues.
That's part of it.
4 years.
Yep.
So like a guy that got drafted in the 40th round that stuck it out for a few years.
Keith Hernandez is a great example.
Those guys don't exist anymore.
44th round pick. Tommy Herr wasn't even drafted. Signed as a free agent. Now he's got a Hall of Fame coat as a St. Louis Cardinal. Not so sure that stuff's going to happen anymore. So it's where we are. Is it good or bad? I have an opinion, but I'm not the expert.
Well, you're not a paid expert, maybe.
Maybe if I was making big bucks like you two guys were, then I would maybe have some influence. Yeah.
No, I'm saying like obviously you are an expert.
No, I know. I know.
And people should.
I think I know what's good for the game and what's fluff for the game, and there seems to be a lot of fluff for the game. And I'll give you an example. I can put this picture on the camera.
Yeah, all you got to do. So if you go to,
it's just. I think this is really important. I went to Cooperstown this past week.
So what you want to do is go to. You're going to put it back there.
I'm gonna put what?
Settings, Bluetooth,
Yeah. Or
or mirror.
he can whatever he wants to do. He can do mirror, or he can do the what is that called? Where you AirPlay,
AirPlay? I got AirPlay.
and you're just going to choose bedroom.
Choose bedroom.
Yep, and it'll kick mine.
Okay, what's the code?
5388.
53. Here we go.
We'll get a
Yeah, I can throw it up there too if you send it to me afterwards in a
there-
text. But there it is.
Is that on the video?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
it's
they're
up
looking
there.
at.
See it? Okay, what is that?
turning two. They're turning two.
Okay, that is a picture that was on the. It was of all the pictures in Cooperstown that I saw. I saw Babe Ruth. I saw every possible player that ever played baseball that might be in the hall, or a pitcher or whatever. That was my favorite picture. And you know why? What was one of the things they said they wanted to see in baseball more? Athleticism, right? Talking about how athletic. It's a ballet, okay? Baseball is actually a ballet without music. And you really, if you just turn the mute off and watch the way players used to move around on the field, that is something you used to see. That is that base runner right there is trying to take that shortstop out, okay? And that shortstop is saying, you come get me. If you don't get down, you're going to have a ball right in the middle of your face. So he threw the ball down. He got down. He avoided contact. He's trying to turn a double play. You don't see that anymore in baseball. That is not allowed anymore. You cannot go for the shortstop or second baseman. Can't try to break up a double play. To me, that was one of the most beautiful things about the game of baseball that took away.
That's not just second base. I mean, that's
It's everywhere.
It's a home plate. That's anywhere.
It's a pop-up. Did you see yesterday the Philly game? It was the Philly game, was it?
Phillies, Yankees, or are they still playing?
Oh, wait a minute. Who was it? I was watching the game yesterday, and there was a pop-up. No, it was Boston. Justin Turner was Seattle, Boston. Justin Turner was playing first.
Really?
The pop-up to the first baseman. Base runner stood 1 yard away from first base because he thought, okay, I'm not going to get the up. And Justin Turner nudged him on purpose. And then the second baseman came in and caught the ball. They called a double play because they called interference on the base runner. He was in the baseline, 3 feet from first base, and Justin Turner ran into him.
Smart play for Justin, but
Well, it's smart, but it's a stupid rule that they put into baseball. And it's all because of part of that. Because they don't want any contact for some reason at the major league level. No contact whatsoever.
and yet that's what made it fun for so long.
Well, yeah. Well, that was a knee jerk reaction. A couple of players get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were both at fault, too.
Well, sure, 100%.
And that's just part of the game.
Yeah.
We saw that with football too. I mean, when we had Andy
We're not talking
McCollum
about
in here.
football now.
I know, but
Please, let's not switch to football because we're talking about apples and bears.
well,
They are
Not even oranges.
Angry Bears play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
The whole idea was to avoid contact. That was really the
Yeah.
beauty of it.
Yeah.
They were the shortstop and second baseman. They're in charge of them getting themselves out of the way. I'm not in charge of you shorting my slide because I might hurt you.
exactly.
I'm not pulling up short.
You don't have to tell me. I love it. I love the old
skill that used to be taught and practiced is no longer part of the game. And that's one of the. I must be an old timer because I loved it.
You're not an old timer. I think there's a bunch of us out there that still enjoyed the grittier baseball scene. So
I think if you're a baseball player, even guys coming up in the big leagues now, I would imagine would want that intensity back in the game. Like,
what do you think?
Well, here's the funny thing: all the intensity now is all self-focused. It's all pounding on the chest, wearing the biggest, keychain, having the best spike. That didn't even enter your brain when I was going through the minors. It was about how am I going to play the game correctly. I don't really give a flying what about how I look doing it. It's whether I can play it right. I don't care if I'm pretty, ugly. It's irrelevant. Everybody wants to be pretty and self-promoting now. And beating the other team doesn't always seem to be a priority.
Well, the thing I think part of the lure of like time baseball is that's tradition. Like traditionally, like this is 100 years old game. Like guys would come up and like Maury Wills. This is the only thing he said. When you're done playing baseball, what people want people to know about you is that he was a hell of a baseball. I just like that's part of being a hell of a baseball player. Like being able to avoid a tag like that and like not
Or
get
having the
hurt.
ability to get down there and taking the guy out.
Yeah, like that's part of being like now you can pull up.
I can't
and
tell
run
you
out.
how many times Kirk Gibson, Lonnie Smith, Bo Jackson, how many runs they paused by the mere intimidation of a second baseman throwing the ball in the stands because they knew that Bo Jackson was coming down that line. And they needed to get somewhere else besides second base as soon as they caught it.
Mhm.
I'm getting out of here. I got to get the ball over there first. But my first priority is to make sure Bo Jackson doesn't hit me in the left field.
Yeah, and that's about part of I think he used to be all around baseball player. Like, what are you going to say to guys now when they retire? Like he was you have to be specific. He was a home run hitter. Or
he had a nice gold chain. I remember us having big gold chains. I'm like Verdugo for the Yankees when he was playing for Boston. He had all this. I was like, I have no idea what kind of players. All I can do is focus on his 5-inch chain he's got around his neck. That's how I'm going to remember him. Wearing the biggest chain I've ever seen in baseball. Now that's sad.
Well, yeah,
that's really sad.
Basketball knew that was coming too, and they got away from chains and earrings and headbands. And
I was going to ask you guys when we talk about the purity of the game and the integrity of the game of baseball. When do you think like we had the right balance? Was that the 80s? Was it the 90s? Was it early 2000s? Obviously,
I would say, believe it or not, steroid era. After the strike in 94, from 95 to 2005, it's about as good as baseball was. I mean, there were stories in there, but you saw, I mean, guys were still fighting, teams are still fighting, guys are still breaking up, guys are still, there's still respect about a guy throwing up and in. Guys weren't, flipping their bat. There was still a respect for the other team and a respect for myself that I didn't have to supersede what I just did to make myself known. Act like my favorite player, okay, we'll talk about football even though I don't want to, was Barry Sanders. What did he do after he scored a touchdown? He used to go over and hand the ball to the referee. They asked him once, why do you do that? He goes, what I get paid to do? And I got used to doing it. I scored a touchdown. I thought that was the whole idea. It wasn't about it wasn't even about how I scored it. It wasn't about after I scored it. It wasn't about the celebration. It was, I scored. The referee's got a job. Here's the ball.
continue on.
Let's go. Act like you've been there before is my point.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. When you said that era, that was what I was kind of thinking too, was like that.
I like the 80s too because there was a lot speedier game, turf, but I hate turf. I think the best decision baseball made was getting rid of the AstroTurf, going to grass. The game was meant to be played on grass, actually during the day. But I know lights are okay. It's great that we have night games. But in a perfect environment, it's a day game. I mean, think about the Cubs and the Cardinals don't play each other in September when it means something. On a sunny day game in Chicago. I mean, how much better can you get? Or the Dodgers playing San Francisco on a day game and Saturday afternoon. Dodgers are one game ahead of the San Francisco Giants for the pennant. And San Francisco comes in LA the last game, last 3-4 games of the series, of the season. That anticipation is my point. We would actually look at the schedule. I remember this in the 90s, early 90s, when we were good. And we look at September because we knew we'd be playing everybody in our division. All right, we can beat these guys. Just got to get a lead. These are the guys we consider. The Mets might be an issue. So when we play Mets late in September, we got to be playing good baseball. I mean, you would think months ahead of time.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't do that anymore.
No.
When he said that, it reminds me of our Adrian Gonzalez conversation the other day too, because he was talking about how he used the ballpark to his advantage. That he would,
You would think differently. It's at home in San Diego. You'd try to walk as much.
yeah,
He knew when you'd go on the road,
they would throw him a
the
first
scouts
pitch.
would be looking, oh, this guy's taking everything. Get on the road and just,
That was some insight.
yeah, but
Valuable.
but we used to do that. Think ahead, like if we can just be, if we were down the division, we're 4 games out. Hey, let's try to maintain. Let's try to gain a game here or there. But if we can get into September, middle of September, we know we got 8 against the Giants. We can get 5 of them.
It's you anticipated that. It's sort of like your honeymoon. You anticipate your honeymoon. You get prepared, do the wedding, blah blah. Get on the plane. Now that's sort of what you look forward to, right? Sort of like a baseball season. What is the honeymoon of a baseball season? Playoffs. What kind of hurdles do we have to get over late in the year to do that?
Yeah, the game is
that part of it's changed. So, and I don't necessarily believe with the way television is today that's absolutely imperative that that Judd as a Yankee has to come to St. Louis to balance that. I don't think that's absolutely necessary. If you want to watch Judd, go home and watch him on TV. I think learning as much as you can about the teams within your division, actually, to me, as a fan, would be more exciting. You can really learn about the Cubs, or you can really learn about the Pirates. If the Pirates are coming in, why are they playing so well in the last 10 games, and now have they caught up to us? Now they can go ahead of us. But when you got playing so many teams, it's hard to keep track.
I was going to ask you, what do you think of the Pirates this year? Because they've played well as of late. So
they're sort of like the Cardinals. Offensively, they were actually not as good. Obviously, they got the best pitcher in baseball probably right now, and they got some great arms in the bullpen. So whether they can sustain it offensively, I doubt it.
Yeah, it's just
their pitching's good enough, but their offense is terrible.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, if you can pull the ball
as a lefty,
yeah. That's about it. But otherwise, it's not a good right-hander.
Is it?
It's beautiful. It's the best. It's the best. That's one thing Pittsburgh's got going for them. They got the best ballpark, but not the best ownership.
Yeah. Well, they've drafted well, so hopefully they can maybe make some changes with that ownership. Yeah, you got to keep the guy, right? And he's got to stay healthy. So
we'll see.
Just don't have to plant it to cultivate it.
True. Otherwise, the Dodgers come around and grab them.
Cultivate them themselves.
They do, man. The Dodgers, if Pittsburgh doesn't take good care of them, I have no doubt the Dodgers, maybe the Yankees. Did you read the quote the other day about Judge when they were talking about what he's wanting after the season now? Or not Judge,
Soto,
what he's wanting now?
I didn't hear what he wants.
He said that the starting, I guess his agent or somebody said the starting price starts in the 400s.
400 what?
Million.
Well, that's a given.
You would, yeah.
Ohtani gets 7. He'll get more than 4. The Yankees will do it probably with the Dodgers. They'll probably out to 2050. That's when they might start.
Yeah,
that's what I do. Because there's always a chance he'd be dead.
I was curious because,
They got insurance.
Yeah.
Ohtani obviously got a lot, but Ohtani also pitches.
Well, so did his interpreter.
Yeah, well, he paid the price for that one.
Interpreter got a lot, like 20, didn't he?
Under the table, though.
The thing is Ohtani though
is up a scandal. Holy!
That was like a blip. They should.
Whatever.
Do you think that he was more involved than you think?
Ohtani?
Yeah.
What?
His friend.
You lose track of 20 million? I don't think so.
I'm just asking. I mean,
I tell you what, if he had no idea,
I have no idea.
I'm not going to. I don't know.
yeah, I was just curious.
I don't know.
If he had no idea, that stinks even worse.
Yes.
Yeah, because apparently they were like best friends, and apparently, I mean, the story goes that's been out there and through what we do know was they were best friends. He was the interpreter, but he also helped handle a little bit of his finances.
Well, I'll say this: I'll give him a pass because my wife can make me broke tomorrow, and I wouldn't know it. So I guess he could do the same.
Well, he was at his hip and had
Right.
access to phones.
Yeah,
and
so
everything.
Yeah,
we'll
it's
give him a pass.
it's an interesting dynamic. But what I was saying with him compared to Juan Soto going up into 400, she said, of course, but I mean, the difference between him and like somebody like Ohtani is Ohtani does sports. He got a little more than 400,
Not two
but
sports.
well, two
Positions.
positions. Sorry, two positions.
Maybe.
We'll
Who
see.
knows if he come back from his second time?
First, I think
I thought it was maybe.
it wasn't that serious either.
He's obviously still hitting
He
really
can
well.
hit.
Yeah, I was gonna say and he can play the outfield.
All right, well, let's go Cardinals.
Yeah,
Let's go Cardinals.
go Cardinals.
They got a chance.
Thanks for.
I think you're welcome. I think they got. Like I said, they got 6 teams they got to jump over. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The only good news
that's
is
the problem.
a lot of those teams aren't much better than them right now.
in the dog days of August.
Yeah,
They are.
Dog days. Dog days.
Is that what they call them?
Yeah, dog days.
I never knew that.
You didn't call
I'm
it?
kidding. Kidding. It all depends where you play too.
Not in-
I'm looking at your phone's right behind us, so we can look at it. You're pulling up the MLB.
You're still in the.
Okay. So here we want to give you the wild card team. National League. Braves, right? All right, still up there?
You're behind.
You're
Yeah,
still zooming in.
So that's see the problem?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams.
There are 4 teams that they got to get over.
some of those are pretty. You talked about the Diamondbacks, but I mean, obviously,
Diamondbacks are going to be a really hard. They started out awful. And their MVP player last year started out awful, and he's catching on. So if he catches on, goodbye Diamondbacks. So that's why I'm saying I'm more concerned about the Diamondbacks than I am about anybody else. They catch on. Cardinals can't beat them.
and they're not going to overtake the Braves. I don't see that happening.
Braves are struggling. There's no question, but
They're a good team. They're so good. If they
I can't figure out the pot.
they can flat out score runs. I know that.
Yeah, but like when? I don't know. It's like they look like the best team in the world for 2.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they're just not consistent. But I mean, they're a good team. They just haven't been able to keep it together long. So, there's not really. I mean, the Pirates, the Reds, the Cubs. I mean, I guess some people might be concerned about them, but I think you're right. I mean, you look at who's in front of them.
The thing is, that's a heck of a division. Look at it. I mean, look at it. I mean, even
You
the
flip it to the
Giants,
side,
as
you
the Giants are, they're 2 games under 500.
Yeah, flip your phone to the side as you do it. There you go. We can look at behind it a lot easier that way.
Okay.
Yeah, the NL West is at the.
Okay. This is why. Look at the last 10 games in the Central. Why is that? Because they're not playing, which you normally wouldn't do in August anyways. You only do it April, then June, July, and yeah, you see some longer win streaks in there.
That's
Anyways.
interesting. They're all 5-5 almost across the
Last 10
board.
games, yeah.
That's interesting. Nobody's really above. Nobody's making any moves up or down with those top.
That's their record too. They're 500.
All of them.
Expect to see their last 10 the rest of the year.
We'll see.
Can't.
But it's sort of, I always equated when I was playing, it's sort of like a swimming race. The guy who can go that last 50 meters. Have you been watching the Olympics? The
I love
guys that
Olympics.
always end up, it's never the guy that poops out in the Olympics. It's the guy that accelerates at the ends up winning those swim meets, especially when they're within 200 meters, 1,500 meters. Like you can dominate that. That's really an endurance test. But when it comes to that sprint at the end, it's the guy that doesn't fall behind. It's the guy that accelerates.
Did you see?
So the team that accelerates in September is.
Did you see the clip of Michael Phelps watching the guy beat his record?
Yeah,
It wasn't that cool.
he liked it. He was genuinely excited about it. It was really neat to see.
Yeah,
It was.
I agree. It kind of gave me chills.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you had the other side of the woman boxer. I felt terrible about her.
She quit.
What women
Did
boxer?
you hear this?
There was
Well, she got beat up by a man. What do you
She
expect?
got punched twice, and she's like,
I quit.
I'm not-
I just
she's-
watched it before I came here. I could. What is?
she was like, I've never been hit that hard in my life. And then she's just in tears. She was talking about her dad. And
Yeah.
I was just like, I just felt so bad for how hard she worked. And
And so she goes to the Olympics to get beat up by a man. Way to go, Olympics.
I know
The IOC.
it really takes away from those great moments. So you think back from
I gotta
like,
come up with a good terminology for the IOC. Idiots glued.
idiots on committee.
yeah,
Yeah, there you go. Idiots on committee. Very nice. I like it.
it's takes away from those like Derek Redmond moments where you remember that where he had this.
You're comparing.
No, I'm talking about the Olympics. When that happens, it really takes away from the great moments because you're like, man, that's just really terrible that they allowed.
Great
that to
moment.
happen."
This is the weirdest moment in Olympic history, allowing a man to beat up a woman.
I agree.
This is the strangest thing in the history of the Olympics.
In
Yeah.
sports,
We're allowing men to beat up women.
it's
Enough to make you
oh yeah, get you upset, get you riled,
Not
man.
upset.
Joe Rogan.
incredulous.
No,
The most confusing thing is the party that is telling us that we can't differentiate between the two is hailing a woman as a president. Like, how can you say that she's a woman? Like, what
Whatever.
is it?
I get you. It's really
It's a confused world.
well, it is, but it just really kind of boiled. I think just from a sporting point of view, you never want to see that, especially
It'd
me.
be like that's the equivalent of letting an 8-year-old
12-year-old.
box a 16-year-old, a young boy versus a man.
Is anybody held liable if that dude punches her and gives her brain damage?
How about she kills her?
Yeah, that's
What
what I
if
mean.
he killed her?
Like, what happens then?
What if he killed her?
That's happened right now. So there are two girls that played college volleyball. Well, I'm sorry, one
Oh, yeah,
high
the
school, one
spike.
college, spiked, and one of them has permanent brain
Yeah.
damage, and the other one is like had a she.
So I'm afraid.
concussion.
I'm afraid some girl's gonna have to die on a video, like
Yeah.
before it stops.
And then before-
insanity stops.
And before we had this boxing match, the UFC allowed it, or it wasn't UFC because Joe would not allow it, but it was a one of the other
Whatever.
one
Offshoot.
leagues, that are similar to UFC allowed a woman, a trans man, to fight a woman, and
Obliterate.
it really killed her. And that
Man.
what?
There's no such thing as against man.
Yeah.
Either a man,
Man
or a woman.
Well, man,
Don't get caught up
Man who thinks
in the platitudes of trans and all. There's only two things in the world, as far as the human being goes: XY, XX. Period.
all right. So,
I didn't invent the genes. He did.
amen. I'll go with you on that. So,
All right.
we're in it, but
formed us in his in our mother.
Joe Rogan talks about it all the time on his podcast, of just how bad it was, and it's like they had a warning, they still allowed it.
Isn't it interesting how people who aren't even Christians get it?
Yeah,
I mean, it's the fact that it's been implanted into our brains and our hearts, and what people deny it is beyond me.
well, they know it. That there's a local problem of it right now.
Well, I know, but
We'll get
We'll
to that
do-
another time.
All right, well,
Next
we'll catch you
segment.
guys next episode. Take care.
Thank you.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Triple Play. Don't forget, as always, to like and subscribe and share. Get the word out. We appreciate that. Also, don't forget to support those that support us, like Resource One and Andy McCallum's team. If you have any financial planning needs, give those guys a call, 636-458-1798, no matter where you're at in life. If you're going through divorces, we've had episodes on here. They've got people who can help you prepare for that. If you're retiring, they got people who happen help you for that. And if you're young, you're just trying to get started, trying to figure out what's the best first step, they've got people for that. So consider Resource One, Andy McCallum and his team there, 636-458-1798. Also, Chris with CS Design, they do our intro or outro. They do the logos. They're wizards at graphic design. They're wizards with all things, I call it technology related or social media related. Give those guys a call. Chris is great, 573-436-3717. And lastly, don't forget, if you have any insurance needs, give Jeff Earhart at 314-821-5333 a call, and those guys would be glad to help you at State Farm with your insurance needs. So State Farm, Jeff Earhart's agency, 314-821-5333, or Jeff. And we appreciate your support as always, and we'll catch you next episode.
You're safe.